You left me on our wedding night. Why?
Because love was never part of the deal.
Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. The crystal chandelier cast a soft romantic glow across the luxurious honeymoon suite at the Harrington Grand Hotel. Elise Johnson stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, her slender fingers tracing the delicate lace on her wedding gown, as she gazed at the city lights twinkling beneath the velvet night sky. The diamond ring on her finger caught the light, sending prisms dancing across the wall. She was now Mrs. Harrington. At least that's what she thought. At 28, Elise had accomplished more than most. A brilliant software developer with acquired confidence and radiant beauty, she had built her reputation from nothing, just as her father had built his small tech company from the ground up. Her dark skin glowed with happiness, and her eyes sparkled with anticipation of the life ahead with Nathan Harrington, the man she had fallen for despite their different worlds. Nathan, she called, her voice melodic, yet tinged with confusion. He had excused himself nearly an hour ago, claiming he needed to make an important business call. The champagne in their glasses had gone flat, the rose petals on the king-sized bed untouched. The silence that answered her made her heart flutter uncomfortably. Elise reached for her phone, her manicured nails tapping against the screen as she dialed his number. It went straight to voicemail. Again, a soft knock on the door startled her. Finally, she breathed, relieved. She moved gracefully across the room, the hem of her wedding dress sweeping across the plush carpet. "I was starting to worry about you," she said, opening the door with a smile that quickly faded. Instead of her husband, she found a stone-faced hotel manager holding an envelope. "Mrs. Harrington," he said, his voice professionally detached, yet somehow pitying. "I was asked to deliver this to you personally." Elise's fingers trembled as she took the envelope, her name written in Nathan's distinctive handwriting. Something cold and hard settled in her stomach. "Is everything all right?" The manager's question hung in the air. "Yes," she lied, forcing a smile. "Thank you." When the door closed, Elise stood frozen, staring at the envelope as if it might bite. Finally, she tore it open, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Elise, I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't. Please understand, this isn't about you. It's about what I need to do for my family. By the time you read this, I will have already filed for divorce. The hotel is paid for the week." "I'm sorry, Nathan." The paper slipped from her fingers and floated to the floor like a dead leaf. Disbelief crashed over her in waves, followed quickly by humiliation so acute it made her physically ill. She stumbled to the bathroom, her wedding dress suddenly feeling like a straitjacket constricting her lungs and making it impossible to breathe. With trembling hands, she tore at the buttons and hooks until the beautiful gown, a gown she had spent months selecting, pooled around her feet like a deflated dream. Standing in her delicate lingerie chosen specially for this night, Elise caught her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at her looked like a stranger, beautiful but abandoned. Her carefully applied makeup now streaked with tears she hadn't realized she was shedding. She didn't hear the room phone ringing at first. When reality pierced through the fog of her shock, she wrapped herself in the hotel's plush robe and moved mechanically to answer it. "Mrs. Harrington, I apologize for the disturbance," came the concierge's voice, "but there's a gentleman here insisting on seeing you. He says it's regarding Mr. Harrington. Shall I send him up?" "Who is it, Elise?" asked her voice, sounding distant to her own ears. "Lucas Carter, Mom." The name meant nothing to her. "I don't know any Lucas Carter. He says it's urgent regarding your husband's situation." "Husband?" The word was a knife twist. Ex-husband, apparently, who filed for divorce before they'd even consummated the marriage. "Send him up," she said finally. Perhaps this stranger had answers. Perhaps this was all an elaborate, cruel joke. Elise moved like a sleepwalker back to the bedroom. The wedding dress lay in a heap on the bathroom floor, a mockery of all her hopes. She couldn't bear to look at it. Instead, she pulled on a simple black dress from her suitcase packed for their honeymoon in the Maldives, a honeymoon that would never happen now. She had just finished wiping away the mascara streaks when the knock came. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door to find a tall, broad-shouldered man with intense dark eyes that widened slightly at the sight of her. There was something vaguely familiar about him, but she couldn't place it. "Elise," he said her name, soft on his lips, almost reverent. Then, seeming to catch himself, he straightened. "I mean Mrs. Harrington. I'm Lucas Carter. I know about Nathan." The simple statement unleashed a fresh wave of humiliation. Was everyone already aware of her abandonment? Had Nathan been laughing about his plan with friends? "What do you know?" she asked, her voice stronger than she felt pride, forcing her spine straight despite feeling shattered inside. "May I come in?" he asked instead of answering. This isn't a conversation for a hallway. Against her better judgment, Elise stepped aside. Lucas Carter entered the room, his presence somehow filling the space without being intrusive. He wore a simple but clearly expensive dark suit, no tie, and carried himself with quiet confidence. His eyes fell on the divorce notice on the floor, and a muscle in his jaw tightened. "That bastard," he muttered, then looked up at her. "I'm sorry. That was unprofessional. You still haven't told me who you are or what you know," Elise said, crossing her arms protectively over her chest. Lucas hesitated, as if carefully choosing his words. "I grew up in the same neighborhood as you, though you probably don't remember me. I was a few years ahead in school." He paused, watching her reaction. "I've known Nathan for years through business connections. What he's done." He shook his head. "It's not what you think." "And what do I think?" Elise challenged, anger finally breaking through her shock. "That you weren't good enough, that he found someone better, that you did something wrong." Lucas's voice was gentle but firm. "None of that is true. Nathan left because he was ordered to." "Ordered by whom?" "His father." Lucas' eyes never left hers. "This marriage was never meant to last, Elise. It was a business move from the beginning. The Harrington family." He trailed, seeming to debate how much to reveal. The Harrington family. What Elise demanded, her brilliant mind already connecting dots she hadn't seen before. Lucas moved to the window, looking out at the city lights that had enchanted Elise earlier. "The Harrington family has been trying to acquire your father's company for years. Your marriage to Nathan was part of their strategy." The revelation hit Elise like a physical blow. She sank onto the edge of the bed, her legs no longer able to support her. "That's insane. Nathan and I dated for almost 2 years before he proposed." Lucas turned back to her, compassion evident in his expression. 2 years during which your father's company developed its most innovative security software, making it an even more attractive acquisition." Elise's mind raced, reviewing every moment of her relationship with Nathan through this new horrifying lens. The coincidental meetings, his sudden interest in her father's business, the questions that had seemed born of genuine curiosity at the time. "How do you know all this?" she finally asked, looking up at the stranger who had just shattered the last of her illusions. Lucas hesitated again. "Let's just say I have my sources in the industry. I came as soon as I confirmed what was happening." He moved closer cautiously, as if approaching a wounded animal. "Elise, I know this is overwhelming, but you need to be careful. This isn't over." "What do you mean?" "The Harrington family doesn't give up easily. If they couldn't get what they wanted through marriage." The implication hung in the air between them. Elise stood suddenly, anger burning away her tears. "Who exactly are you, Lucas Carter? And why do you care what happens to me?" Something flickered in his eyes, something warm and deep that disappeared so quickly. She thought she might have imagined it. "Let's just say I have a vested interest in seeing justice done," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket and pulling out a business card. "I'm staying in this hotel. If you need anything at all, please call me." Elise took the card automatically, noting the minimal information it provided, just his name and a phone number. "New company, new position." "I'll leave you now," Lucas said softly. "You've had enough shocks for one night. But please, Elise, be careful and know that you're not alone in this." As he moved toward the door, Elise found her voice again. "Why should I trust you? I don't even know you." Lucas stopped his hand on the doorknob. He turned back to her with an expression so intense it made her breath catch. "Because unlike Nathan Harrington, I have nothing to gain by lying to you." With that, he was gone, leaving Elise alone with her shattered wedding night and a business card from a mysterious stranger who somehow knew more about her husband's betrayal than she did. Chapter 2. The Unexpected Visitor. Morning light filtered through the curtains, casting harsh reality over the honeymoon suite. Elise had barely slept, her mind racing between disbelief, humiliation, and rage. The divorce papers had arrived via courier at 7 a.m. Nathan had wasted no time making their separation official. The swift efficiency of it all only confirmed Lucas Carter's words. This had been planned. Elise sat cross-legged on the couch, still in her nightclothes, hair pulled back in a messy bun as she pored over the documents. Despite her emotional turmoil, her analytical mind couldn't help but note the thoroughness of the prenuptial agreement she'd signed. At the time, she'd thought it was standard procedure for someone from Nathan's wealthy family. Now each clause felt like another calculated betrayal. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was her father. "Baby girl." Samuel Johnson's deep voice came through the speaker, concern. "Evident I've been trying to reach you since last night. What's going on?" "Nathan's father just called me about some unfortunate development." Elise closed her eyes, shame washing over her anew. "Daddy, Her voice cracked. "Nathan left me last night after the wedding." The silence on the other end was deafening. When her father spoke again, his voice had the deadly calm that Elise recognized from her childhood, the tone he used when he was controlling fury. "Where are you now?" "Still at the hotel." "Pack your things. I'm coming to get you." "No, Dad," Elise said firmly, wiping away a stray tear. "I'm a grown woman. I got myself into this mess, and I'll get myself out." Even as the words left her mouth, she realized she had no idea what her next steps would be. Her apartment had been sublet in anticipation of moving into Nathan's penthouse. Her job, she'd given notice, planning to take an extended honeymoon before considering her next career move. "Elise, listen to me." Her father's voice grew urgent. "Something isn't right about this." Yesterday morning, Harrington Sr. made another offer for Johnson Tech, triple what he offered last month. The information struck Elise like a thunderbolt. Lucas's warnings ringing in her ears. "Did you accept?" "Of course not. Our security software is about to revolutionize the market. It's worth 10 times what he offered." Pride momentarily overshadowed concern in her father's voice. But the timing seemed suspicious now. A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. "Dad, someone's here. I'll call you back." Elise approached the door, cautiously checking the peephole. Lucas Carter stood in the hallway, his tall frame casually dressed in dark jeans and a light blue button-down that emphasized his broad shoulders. Despite the circumstances, Elise couldn't help but notice how handsome he was in daylight, his strong jaw contrasting with surprisingly gentle eyes. She opened the door a few inches still, in her sleep shorts and tank top. "Mr. Carter, I wasn't expecting you." His eyes briefly traced over her appearance before politely lifting back to her face. "I'm sorry to intrude, but I brought breakfast." He held up a bag from the hotel's acclaimed restaurant. "I thought you might not feel like going downstairs." The gesture was so unexpectedly thoughtful that Elise found herself stepping back to let him in. "How are you holding up?" he asked, setting the bag on the dining table and unpacking containers of fresh fruit, pastries, and coffee. "As well as can be expected when you're served divorce papers before your wedding night," Elise responded dryly, self-consciously, running a hand through her unkempt hair. "Give me a minute to change." When she emerged from the bedroom in jeans and a simple blouse, Lucas had arranged breakfast on the table and was examining the divorce papers with a frown. "These were prepared weeks ago," he said, without looking up. "The date of preparation is buried in the legal jargon, but it's here. Page 17, paragraph 3. Elise picked up the papers, finding the reference exactly where he'd indicated. Her hands trembled with renewed anger. He knew all along. 2 weeks ago, we were finalizing wedding details, and he was preparing to leave me. Lucas' expression darkened. The Harrington family plays the long game, always have. He gestured to the food. "You should eat something." Surprisingly, Elise found she was hungry. As they ate, Lucas explained more about his connection to the situation. "I've been tracking the Harrington family's business practices for years," he said, between bites of croissant. "Their shipping company is legitimate, but there are other ventures that operate in gray areas. Their interest in your father's security software isn't just about market dominance." "What does that mean?" Elise asked, her coffee halfway to her lips. Lucas hesitated. "Your father's encryption algorithms could be repurposed for things beyond corporate security, things that would be valuable to certain international entities." The implication sent a chill down Elise's spine. "Are you saying they wanted to steal our technology for illegal purposes?" "I'm saying their interest goes beyond normal business acquisition," Lucas replied carefully, "and they were willing to use you to get it." Elise set down her coffee cup with more force than intended. "I still don't understand why you're involved in this." "Who exactly are you, Lucas Carter?" A shadow crossed his face. "Someone who knows what it's like to be used by the Harrington family." He reached for his phone, scrolling to find something. "There's something else you should know." He slid the phone across the table. On the screen was a photograph, Elise in the honeymoon suite bathroom, captured through the partially open door as she removed her wedding dress, revealing the lingerie beneath. Her blood ran cold. "Where did you get this?" she whispered, feeling violated to her core. "Nathan sent it to his father last night before he left." My source intercepted the communication. Lucas's voice was gentle but firm. "There are more. They were planning to use them as leverage if your father continued to refuse their offers." Rage and humiliation competed for dominance as Elise stared at the image. She had been nothing but a pawn in their game, not even a person deserving of basic dignity. "Delete it," she commanded, pushing the phone back toward him. "Delete all of them," I have Lucas assured her. "But Nathan still has the originals." Elise stood abruptly, needing to move to do something with the energy coursing through her. "Why are you helping me? What do you get out of this?" Lucas remained, seated, his eyes following her movements. "Let's just say I owe the Harrington family some payback of my own." "That's not an answer." He sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "Elise, do you remember?" Oakwood Elementary, 6th grade. The question came so out of left field that Elise stopped pacing. She searched her memory, trying to make the connection vaguely. "What does this have to do with anything? You were the only black girl in our advanced math class. The teacher, Mrs. Thompson, used to pair us up for projects." A small smile touched his lips. "You always did most of the work because my calculations were too slow." The memory filtered back slowly. A skinny boy with glasses too big for his face. Quiet, but always kind. Lucas. Little Lucas. With the science fair projects, Elise stared at him, trying to reconcile the awkward child with the confident man before her. "But you? You moved away. My mother got a job in another state," he confirmed. "But I never forgot this neighborhood or the people in it." He stood, moving closer to her, his expression serious. "The Harrington family has been bullying their way through this community for generations. Your father's company is just their latest target. I have the resources to help you fight back if you'll let me." Resource? Elise's eyes narrowed. "What kind of resources?" Lucas hesitated again, and Elise had the distinct impression he was holding something back. "I've done well for myself," he said finally. "I have connections, information, and the means to protect you while we figure out how to handle this situation." Elise challenged, even as something warmed inside her at the thought of not facing this alone. "If you want," he amended. "This is your battle, Elise. I'm just offering to be your ally." She studied him, this man who was both stranger and somehow familiar. There was something in his eyes when he looked at her, something beyond professional interest or childhood nostalgia, that made her heart beat faster despite everything. "I need to call my father," she said finally. "He should know what's happening." Lucas nodded, stepping back to give her space. "Of course, I'll wait." As Elise moved to the bedroom for privacy, she glanced back at Lucas, who had returned to studying the divorce papers, his brow furrowed in concentration. He seemed genuinely invested in helping her, and right now she desperately needed someone on her side. "Lucas," she called softly. He looked up immediately, his expression attentive. "Thank you," she said, "simply for the breakfast and for caring about what happens to me." Something flickered in his eyes, that same warmth she'd glimpsed the night before. "Always," he replied. The word weighted with a meaning Elise couldn't fully decipher. As she closed the bedroom door to call her father, Elise couldn't shake the feeling that Lucas Carter knew far more about her than he was letting on, and that his appearance in her life at this precise moment was less coincidence than it seemed. Chapter 3. Painful Revelations. 2 days after her disastrous wedding, Elise sat across from her father in his modest office at Johnson Tech. The small but innovative company occupied half a floor in a downtown building, nothing like the gleaming skyscraper that housed Harrington Industries. But what Johnson Tech lacked in square footage, it made up for in groundbreaking security software. "I still think you should press charges, Samuel Johnson," said his salt and pepper beard, doing little to hide his clenched jaw. At 62, he remained formidable, a self-taught programmer who had built his company from nothing, while raising Elise alone after her mother died of cancer when Elise was just 8. "And tell the police what, Dad? That my husband took private photos of me on our wedding night before abandoning me." Elise shook her head, her sleek ponytail swinging with the movement. "The humiliation isn't worth it. Besides, we don't have proof that Nathan still has the photos." "But this man, this Lucas Carter, he saw them," her father insisted. Elise sighed, thinking of Lucas. Since their breakfast meeting, he'd kept a respectful distance, texting only to check on her well-being and to offer assistance should she need it. There was something comforting about knowing he was there, even as she grappled with trusting anyone after Nathan's betrayal. Lucas deleted the copies he intercepted. She explained for the third time. He believes Nathan took them as insurance blackmail material to force you to sell the company if their marriage scheme failed. Samuel leaned back in his chair, his expression troubled. And you trust this Carter character, a man who conveniently appears the moment your marriage falls apart? It was a fair question. I'm not sure trust is the right word, Elise admitted, but he went to school with me, Dad. I remember him from Oakwood. He was always quiet but kind. Before her father could respond, his assistant knocked on the door. Mr. Johnson, the Harrington Industries representatives are here. Samuel rose, straightening his tie. You don't have to stay for this, Elise. Yes, I do, she replied, standing as well. It's time I face them. Her father studied her for a moment, then nodded with pride. That's my girl. The conference room felt too small once occupied by Elise, her father, and 3 Harrington Industries executives, including Nathan's father, Edward Harrington, an imperious man in his 60s with cold blue eyes and not a silver hair out of place. Conspicuously absent was Nathan himself. Miss Johnson, Edward said with false warmth, deliberately using her maiden name. I was surprised to hear you would be joining us. This is a business meeting after all. As the Chief Innovation Officer of Johnson Tech, my presence is entirely appropriate, Elise replied coolly. Having accepted her father's job for that morning, she wore a crisp white blouse and tailored navy blazer armor against these people who had tried to break her. Edward's smile tightened. Of course, my mistake. He turned to Samuel. Shall we get down to business? Our offer remains on the table, triple the market valuation for Johnson Tech, plus generous retention packages for key staff, including your daughter. Samuel asked pointedly. Edward had the grace to look uncomfortable. The situation with Nathan and Miss Johnson is regrettable. A personal matter that needn't affect our business arrangements. Elise felt a surge of rage, so powerful she had to grip her pen to stay silent. A personal matter, as if Nathan had forgotten to call, not abandoned her on their wedding night, as part of a corporate conspiracy. Mr. Harrington, her father said evenly, let me be clear. Johnson Tech is not for sale. Not to you, not at any price. I strongly advise you to reconsider, one of the other executives interjected. The market is volatile. Your current valuation may not hold. Is that a threat? Elise asked, unable to contain herself any longer. Edward Harrington turned his cold gaze to her. Merely a market observation, Miss Johnson, though I understand why you might be sensitive to perceived slights after recent events. The condescension in his tone made Elise's blood boil. Recent events orchestrated by your family, you mean? Tell me, Mr. Harrington, how long did you and Nathan plan this? Was it before or after he proposed? Elise, her father cautioned quietly. Edward's expression hardened. I'm not sure what you're implying, but my son's personal decisions are his own. If your relationship failed, perhaps you should look to your own shortcomings rather than fabricating conspiracies. Elise leaned forward. Interesting. So the divorce papers prepared 2 weeks before our wedding were just what a precaution. And I suppose the photos Nathan took of me in our honeymoon suite were also just innocent mementos. The momentary wing of Edward's eyes told her everything she needed to know. He hadn't expected her to know about the photos. I think this meeting is over, Samuel declared, standing. Gentlemen, I'll have security escort you out. As the Harrington contingent gathered their materials, Edward paused beside Elise's chair. You're playing a dangerous game, Miss Johnson, he murmured too low for the others to hear. Be careful you don't get burned. After they left, Elise released a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. You knew about the photos, her father said, not a question but a statement. Why didn't you tell me? Elise met his concerned gaze. I needed to see Edward's reaction for myself. Lucas was right. They're planning to use them somehow. This Lucas seems to know a lot about the Harrington family's tactics, Samuel observed. I think it's time I met him. Lucas arrived at Johnson Tech precisely at the agreed time, dressed in a simple charcoal suit that somehow looked like it cost more than most people's monthly salary. Elise watched her father evaluate him with the same intensity he used when reviewing new code. Mr. Johnson, Lucas said, extending his hand, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. They settled in Samuel's office, the downtown skyline visible through the windows. Elise couldn't help noticing how Lucas's presence seemed to fill the room without effort, a quiet confidence that didn't need to announce itself. "My daughter tells me you've been helpful during this difficult time," Samuel began. "But I'm still not clear on why you're involved, or what your interest is in our situation." Lucas nodded, accepting the direct approach. "Fair enough." He removed a small device from his pocket and placed it on the desk. "If you don't mind, this will ensure our conversation remains private." Samuel raised an eyebrow. "You think we're being monitored?" "I think the Harrington family has a history of industrial espionage," Lucas replied, evenly activating the device. A soft blue light indicated it was working. "And your security software would be a valuable acquisition for certain clients they deal with outside official channels." Elise felt a chill at the confirmation of what Lucas had hinted at before. "You're saying they want to steal our encryption algorithms for illegal purposes?" "Not just any encryption algorithms," Lucas said, his eyes meeting hers with unexpected intensity. "Your algorithms, Elise. The adaptive security protocols you developed last year are exactly what certain foreign entities are looking for: software that can protect sensitive communications while simultaneously creating backdoor access for the right users." Surprise rendered her momentarily speechless. "How do you know about that?" "That project was classified even within our company." A ghost of a smile touched Lucas's lips. "I make it my business to know about innovations that could be weaponized, especially when they're created by people I care about." The statement hung in the air, laden with implications. Elise wasn't ready to examine. Samuel leaned forward. "You still haven't answered my question, Mr. Carter. Who are you really?" Lucas considered his words carefully. "Officially, I'm the founder and CEO of Guardian Security Systems. Unofficially, I've been monitoring Harrington Industries for years, documenting their more questionable business practices." Guardian Security. Samuel's eyes widened with recognition. Elise's mind raced. Guardian was a major player in the cybersecurity space, a direct competitor to much larger corporations, known for its cutting-edge technology and the reclusive genius behind it. "You're that Lucas Carter?" she asked, pieces falling into place. "The billionaire tech developer." Lucas winced slightly at the description. "I prefer security specialist, but yes. Why didn't you tell me?" Elise demanded, feeling somehow betrayed again. "Would it have made a difference?" he countered gently. "You were already dealing with enough shock, and I wanted to help you as Lucas, the kid from Oakwood Elementary, not as some tech CEO you might feel obligated to impress." There was something in his expression, a vulnerability behind the successful businessman facade, that made Elise's irritation fade. He'd been honest about everything except his wealth and position, and given her recent experience with Nathan, she could understand his caution. Samuel cleared his throat. "So Guardian Security is interested in Johnson Tech. Is that what this is about? You want our company too?" "No, sir," Lucas said firmly. "I'm here because the Harrington family has crossed a line using Elise as a pawn in their corporate games." His voice hardened a flash of anger, breaking through his composed exterior. "That's personal." Elise felt a rush of warmth at his protectiveness, even as her practical mind questioned it. "You mentioned having evidence of their illegal activities." Lucas nodded, pulling a secure tablet from his briefcase. "Financial trails, intercepted communications, shell company structures. They've been selling modified shipping technology to sanctioned countries for years, disguised as agricultural equipment." He passed the tablet to Samuel. "But what they really want is your security software, specifically the adaptive protocol, Elise, designed to protect those communications." Samuel scrolled through the documents, his expression growing increasingly grave. "This is extensive and inadmissible in court, since most of it was obtained through unorthodox channels," Lucas admitted. "But it's enough to understand what we're dealing with, which brings us back to the photos," Elise said quietly. "If they can't buy our company legitimately," Lucas's expression darkened, "they'll use them to force your hand, your father's reputation, your dignity, collateral damage in their business strategy." The bluntness of his assessment hit Elise like a physical blow. "Then we need to get those photos back." "That won't be easy," Lucas cautioned. "Nathan keeps everything sensitive on an encrypted drive, and after today's meeting they'll be on guard." Samuel set down the tablet, his decision made. "What do you propose, Mr. Carter?" Lucas's gaze shifted between father and daughter. "A counter strategy. They've shown they'll fight dirty, so we need to be prepared." He turned to Elise. "I can offer you protection, resources, whatever you need, but this has to be your choice." Elise felt something shift inside her, fear and hurt, transforming into determination. I want justice and I want those photos destroyed. Then I have a suggestion, Lucas said, his expression softening as he looked at her. Come work with me at Guardian. Officially, we'll announce you've accepted a position as our new security protocol developer. It gives you distance from Johnson Tech, making your father's company a less obvious target. Meanwhile, we'll work together to build a case against the Harrington family. You want me to hide? Elise asked, bristling at the suggestion. No, Lucas replied without hesitation. I want you to fight from a position of strength. Your brilliance deserves a platform where it can't be exploited or threatened. There was something in his eyes as he spoke, admiration, respect, and something deeper that made her heart beat faster despite her resolve to keep emotional distance. Samuel watched their exchange with a thoughtful expression. The offer makes strategic sense, Elise, and from what I know of Guardian's work, it would be a challenging position worthy of your talents. Elise weighed the proposal, studying Lucas's face for any sign of deception. Despite everything, she found herself wanting to trust him, this man from her past who had reappeared at her darkest moment with offers of help and protection. If I do this, she said, finally, I need complete transparency from now on. No more hidden identities or partial truths. Lucas nodded without hesitation. You have my word. Something unspoken passed between them, a connection that transcended their current circumstances, hinting at possibilities. Elise wasn't ready to acknowledge. Then I accept, she said, extending her hand professionally. When Lucas took it, his touch was warm and sure, sending an unexpected current up her arm that had nothing to do with business arrangements. For the first time since her wedding night, Elise felt something other than pain and anger, a dangerous flutter of hope that somehow with this man's help, she might reclaim not just her dignity but her future. Chapter 4. New Beginnings. The sleek glass headquarters of Guardian Security Systems rose 40 stories above downtown, its reflective exterior gleaming in the morning sunlight. As Elise approached the entrance, 2 weeks had passed since she'd accepted Lucas's job offer. 2 weeks of frantic organization as she moved into a secure apartment building owned by Guardian and prepared to start her new professional life. Good morning, Miss. Johnson, the security guard, greeted her with a respectful nod. Mr. Carter asked that you be escorted directly to his office upon arrival. Elise thanked him, clutching her leather portfolio, as they rode the elevator to the top floor. Despite her outward composure, her stomach fluttered with nervous energy. This wasn't just a new job. It was a calculated move in a dangerous game with the Harrington family. Lucas's executive suite was surprisingly modest, functional, and elegant rather than ostentatious. He stood when she entered, his face lighting up in a way that made her pulse quicken involuntarily. Elise, he said warmly, coming around his desk. Welcome to Guardian. Thank you for this opportunity, she replied professionally, though she couldn't help noticing how his tailored shirt emphasized his broad shoulders. Since learning his true identity, she'd researched him thoroughly, the tech prodigy who had built Guardian from nothing into a cybersecurity powerhouse, valued at billions. Yet he remained intensely private, rarely appearing in press photos and never in the social pages. Lucas gestured to the woman who had entered silently behind them. This is Nora Lynn, my chief operating officer and the person who actually keeps Guardian running. Nora, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with a sleek bob, offered a knowing smile. He's not exaggerating. Lucas is brilliant with code but hopeless with scheduling. She extended her hand. I've followed your work, Ms. Johnson. Your adaptive security protocols are revolutionary. Please call me Elise, she replied, surprised by the warm welcome. And thank you. I'm eager to see how they might integrate with Guardian's framework. You'll have all the resources you need, Lucas assured her. Your official title is Director of Protocol Development, reporting directly to me, but the team thinks you've been hired to advance our consumer security division. Elise raised an eyebrow. So they don't know the real reason I'm here. Only Nora and our head of security know the full situation, Lucas confirmed. The fewer people aware of our counter-operation against Harrington Industries, the better. Nora checked her tablet. Your team is assembled in Conference Room C for introductions. I'll take you down after you're settled. She excused herself, leaving Elise alone with Lucas. How are you really doing? He asked, his professional demeanor softening into genuine concern. Elise appreciated that he didn't try to touch her, didn't offer empty physical comfort like so many might have. I'm focused, she answered truthfully. It's easier than dwelling on the humiliation. What Nathan did reflects on him, Not you, Lucas said firmly. Logically, I know that. Elise moved to the window, gazing at the city below. But logic doesn't stop the nightmares, imagining those photos being seen by others being used against my father. Lucas joined her at the window, careful to maintain respectful distance. We'll get them back, he promised. In the meantime, I have something for you. He handed her a small device that resembled a stylish bracelet. This has a panic button, GPS tracker, and communication link directly to security just in case. The implication that she might need such protection was sobering. Do you really think they'd try something physical? I think the Harrington family doesn't like losing, Lucas replied grimly. And right now, you walking away from their scheme represents a significant loss. A knock at the door interrupted them. Nora returned with a tablet for Elise. Your security credentials, building access, and project files. Your team is ready whenever you are. The next few hours passed in a whirlwind of introductions and technical discussions. To Elise's pleasant surprise, her new team was exceptional, brilliant programmers and security specialists who embraced her leadership without question. By lunchtime, she was deep in collaborative planning for enhancements to Guardian's encryption protocols. You've made quite an impression, Lucas commented when he found her still working in the conference room late that afternoon. The rest of the team had departed, leaving half-empty coffee cups and diagrams scattered across digital displays. Elise looked up from her tablet, realizing with surprise that she'd been so absorbed in the work she'd lost track of time. They're incredibly talented. The quantum resistance approach Michael suggested dovetails perfectly with my adaptive algorithms. Lucas smiled, leaning against the doorframe. I only hire the best. His expression grew more serious. Are you ready for Phase 2? Phase 2, the reason she was really at Guardian investigating Nathan and the Harrington family's illicit activities, while developing a strategy to recover the compromising photos. Elise straightened, setting aside the technical work that had provided such welcome distraction. As ready as I'll ever be, they relocated to a secure room where Nora and Javier Morales, Guardian's head of security, a former military intelligence officer with keen eyes and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, were waiting. We've been monitoring Harrington communications. Javier began without preamble. Your confrontation at Johnson Tech rattled them. They've accelerated negotiations with Wei in Shanghai, the company we believe is their actual client for your security protocols. What exactly does Wei want with my work? Elise asked. Lucas brought up documents on the main screen. They provide communications services to certain government entities. Your adaptive protocols would allow them to create the ultimate surveillance system, outwardly secure, while providing backdoor access to whoever controls the master keys. The realization of how her innovation could be weaponized made Elise feel faintly ill. And the photos, Javier's expression hardened. Nathan keeps them on a dedicated drive. We've identified where it's stored, but extraction will be challenging. We need to be certain the copies are secured before we move against them publicly, Nora added. Otherwise, they could distribute them out of spite. The clinical discussion of such a personal violation made Elise's cheeks burn with humiliation and anger. Lucas must have noticed because he subtly redirected the conversation to strategic planning. Over the next 2 hours, they developed a multi-phase approach to building their case against Harrington Industries, while working to secure the compromising photos. By the time they finished, Elise felt simultaneously exhausted and energized, focused on a path forward, rather than dwelling on betrayal. You should head home, Lucas said, as they wrapped up. First days are always draining. Actually, I'd like to keep working on the integration specs for a while, Elise replied. The technical work is stabilizing. Lucas studied her with understanding. I know what you mean. Code makes sense, even when people don't. He hesitated, but you need rest too. Let me at least order some dinner brought in. Something about his thoughtfulness, not pushing, but supporting, made warmth spread through Elise's chest. Thank you. That would be nice. They ended up sharing Thai food in Lucas's office. Technical diagrams spread between them as they brainstormed. Elise found herself relaxing as they fell into the familiar rhythm of collaborative problem-solving. This was comfortable territory, the elegant dance of algorithms and security protocols. You know, I remembered something today, she said, setting down her chopsticks. In 8th grade, you won the science fair with a primitive encryption program. You called it Code Vault. Lucas looked surprised, then pleased that she remembered. It was terrible code, just a basic substitution cipher with some flashy graphics, but the concept was sound. It was sound, Elise insisted. You were thinking about digital privacy before most adults understood the internet. While you were already redesigning network architecture, he countered with a smile, "Mrs. Thompson used to say you were the most brilliant student she'd ever taught. I remember when Timmy Rogers deleted all your work the day before the fair." Elise said, the memory unexpectedly vivid. "You stayed up all night rewriting it." Lucas's eyes widened. "I can't believe you remember that. You showed up with bloodshot eyes, but a working program," she continued. "That was the first time I realized what real determination looked like." The shared memories created an unexpected intimacy between them, a connection that predated their current complicated circumstances. "It's strange," Elise mused, "to think our paths might have continued alongside each other if your family hadn't moved away." Something flickered in Lucas's eyes, a shadow of old pain. "My mother didn't have much choice after my father left. The tech job in Seattle paid twice what she could make here." This was new information, a piece of his past Elise hadn't known. "That must have been difficult." "It was," he acknowledged quietly. "But it taught me self-reliance." And apparently, he added with a small smile, "It didn't stop us from finding each other again." The comment, simple but laden with meaning, hung in the air between them. For a moment, their eyes held a shared recognition that perhaps their reconnection wasn't entirely coincidental. When she finally gathered her things to leave, exhaustion catching up with her, Lucas walked her to the private elevator. "Your secure apartment is stocked with everything you should need," he said. "But if there's anything missing, just let the building concierge know." "Lucas," Elise said quietly as the elevator arrived. "Why are you doing all this?" The truth this time. He held her gaze, something vulnerable, crossing his normally composed features. "Because 18 years ago, I watched the strongest, smartest, most beautiful girl I knew stand up in front of our entire class and defend her science project when Mr. Ellis tried to suggest her father must have helped her build it." The memory hit Elise with surprising force. The insult from the teacher, the fury and hurt it had caused. "You told him that you'd written every line of code yourself," Lucas continued softly, "and then proceeded to explain your algorithm so brilliantly that even he couldn't doubt you anymore." His smile was tinged with admiration. "I decided that day that I wanted to be as brave as you. I failed, of course, ran away from too many things in my life, but I never forgot that moment. The fact that someone hurt you," Lucas said, his voice low and intense. "Someone used you as a pawn in their game. I can't let that stand. Not when I have the means to help." Before she could respond, his professional demeanor reasserted itself. "Get some rest, Elise. Tomorrow we start building our case in earnest." As the elevator carried her downward, Elise found herself touching the secure bracelet on her wrist, her mind filled not with thoughts of revenge or fear, but with the unexpected warmth of connection to a man who had carried the memory of her strength for nearly 2 decades. Chapter 5. Falling slowly. 3 months passed in a blur of productivity and purpose. Elise thrived at Guardian, her innovative approaches to security protocols impressing even the most seasoned developers on her team. What had begun as a strategic move against the Harrington family had evolved into a genuinely fulfilling professional endeavor. The October morning dawned crisp and clear as Elise strode through Guardian's executive floor, nodding to colleagues who now greeted her with respect, bordering on admiration. Her integration of quantum-resistant encryption with adaptive security protocols had attracted attention throughout the industry, generating whispers that Guardian was about to revolutionize digital security. The Shanghai conference organizers called again. Nora informed her as Elise passed her office. "They're offering keynote status if you'll present the theoretical framework." Elise posed conflicted. The International Security Summit was the industry's most prestigious event, and a keynote would cement her professional reputation independent of her work at Johnson Tech. But Shanghai was also home to Wei, the company that the Harrington family was illegally partnering with. "Have you discussed it with Lucas?" she asked. Nora's knowing smile suggested she understood the subtext. Over the past months, Elise and Lucas had developed a working relationship that often blurred professional boundaries, late-night strategy sessions, shared meals over technical discussions, and a growing ease that sometimes felt like something deeper. "He said it's your decision," Nora replied. "But Javier is concerned about security risks if you travel to China." Before Elise could respond, her secure phone buzzed with a message from Lucas. "My office. When you have a moment, breakthrough on Project H." Project H, their code for the Harrington investigation. Heart-quickening. Elise made her way to Lucas's office, where she found him with Javier, both men studying data on multiple screens. "What happened?" she asked, closing the door behind her. Javier's normally stoic expression held a hint of satisfaction. "We've located the server farm Harrington Industries uses for their off-books communications with sanctioned countries." And he paused for effect. "We've confirmed it contains Nathan's personal encrypted drives." Elise's pulse jumped. "Including the photos?" "Almost certainly," Lucas answered, turning toward her with eyes bright with triumph. "This is the missing piece we needed." Over the months, they had compiled extensive evidence of the Harrington family's illegal technology transfers and financial improprieties, but they still needed to secure the compromising photos before moving against them publicly. "We need to access that server farm," Javier continued. "It's in a Harrington subsidiary's data center in Denver. Security is tight but not impossible." "When do we move?" Elise asked, already mentally preparing for the confrontation she'd been anticipating for months. Lucas and Javier exchanged glances. "That's the complicated part," Lucas admitted. "The annual Harrington Industries security audit begins next week. For 3 days, their entire network will be under exceptional scrutiny with additional guards and monitoring. After that, there's a maintenance window where security protocols will be briefly suspended for system updates," Javier added. "That's our window, but it's 2 weeks from now." 2 weeks, Elise repeated, trying to mask her disappointment at the delay. Lucas studied her expression. "Actually, this timing works in our favor. The Denver Technology Summit is happening next week, and we've been invited to present Guardian's new security framework. You want us to attend a conference while we wait for our window of opportunity," Elise surmised. "It maintains our cover as focused solely on legitimate business," Javier confirmed. "Plus, Denver puts us in position to move quickly when the maintenance window opens." And Lucas added with a hint of hesitation, "It gets us both out of New York, away from any watching eyes while we finalize our strategy." The plan made tactical sense, yet something in Lucas's tone suggested there was more to his thinking. Before Elise could question him further, Nora entered with urgent news. Harrington Industries just announced a major partnership with Global Finance Solutions. She reported, handing Lucas a tablet with the press release. "They're positioning it as revolutionary secure banking technology." Lucas's expression darkened as he read, "This is based on Elise's protocols. They've modified the architecture, but the core concepts are unmistakable." Elise took the tablet, anger flaring, as she recognized elements of her work repurposed without permission. "They're moving faster than we anticipated." "The timing of this announcement right before the Denver summit isn't coincidental," Javier observed. "They're trying to establish public claim to the technology before we can challenge them." Lucas's jaw tightened with rarely displayed anger. "Book us on tomorrow's flight to Denver. We need to be ahead of this." As Javier and Nora left to make arrangements, Lucas turned to Elise, his professional demeanor softening. "I'm sorry. I know seeing your work stolen and perverted like this must be infuriating." "It's not just anger," Elise admitted. "It's the violation. First my personal life, now my professional work." She shook her head. "Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever feel fully in control again." Without thinking, Lucas reached for her hand, a gesture of comfort that sent unexpected warmth through her despite the circumstances. "We'll get it all back. Your work, your privacy, everything they took." His touch lingered a moment longer than strictly necessary, his dark eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. The air between them seemed to charge with unspoken possibilities, a tension that had been building incrementally over their months of close collaboration. Lucas broke the connection first, clearing his throat as he stepped back. "We should prepare for Denver. The summit will be high profile, and the Harrington contingent will certainly be watching." "Let them watch," Elise replied with newfound determination. "I'm done hiding from them." The Denver Technology Summit was hosted in a luxury mountain resort, an hour outside the city, a stunning complex of modern architecture nestled among snow-dusted pines. Their connecting suites offered breathtaking views of the Rockies, though Elise had little time to appreciate the scenery as they prepared for their presentation. Harrington Industries representatives just checked in, Lucas informed her, as they reviewed their slides in his suite's living room, including Nathan. Elise's hand stilled on her tablet. "Nathan is here, not just his father. Apparently he's heading their financial technology division now." Lucas studied her reaction carefully. "We can modify our schedule to avoid direct contact." "No," Elise said firmly. "I won't rearrange my professional life to accommodate him. Besides," she added with a hint of steel, "I want him to see me thriving without him." Lucas's smile held admiration. "You continue to amaze me," he said softly, then quickly refocused on their presentation. They worked late into the evening, refining their demonstration of Guardian's new security framework, deliberately structured to highlight Elise's original work without explicitly calling attention to how Harrington Industries had appropriated it. "I think we're as prepared as we can be," Lucas finally said, closing his laptop. "We should try to get some rest." Elise nodded, though. Anxiety about facing Nathan had her too wired for sleep. She stood to return to her suite, but hesitated at the door. "Lucas, would you mind if we just talked for a while about something other than work or revenge or stolen photos?" The request seemed to catch him off guard, but his expression quickly softened. "I'd like that." They ended up on the suite's balcony, despite the cold, wrapped in the resort's plush blankets as they gazed at stars brilliantly visible in the mountain sky. Their conversation meandered from childhood memories to favorite books, deliberately avoiding the complicated present in favor of simpler connections. "Did you ever wonder what happened to Mrs. Thompson?" Elise asked, her breath visible in the chilly air. Lucas chuckled. "I looked her up a few years ago, actually. She retired to Florida, still mentoring gifted students in mathematics." "Of course you checked." Elise smiled, oddly touched. "You always were thorough. Unlike you who rushed headlong into every challenge," Lucas countered with affectionate teasing. "Remember when you debugged the entire school network after that virus attack? Principal Carter wanted to suspend you for unauthorized access until you explained how you'd actually improved their security." Elise laughed at the memory. "I was so terrified I was going to be expelled. My father would have been devastated. He was always so proud of you," Lucas said. "Still is, from what I can tell. He likes you, Elise admitted. "Says you're one of the few people who understands what I'm capable of without feeling threatened by it." Lucas's gaze was steady in the moonlight. "Your brilliance isn't threatening. It's inspiring." The simple sincerity of the compliment warmed Elise more than the blanket wrapped around her shoulders. In that moment, with mountains silhouetted against the night sky and the comfortable silence between them, she allowed herself to acknowledge what she'd been feeling over the past months. She was falling for Lucas Carter. The realization should have terrified her after Nathan's betrayal, but somehow it felt inevitable, a gradual, natural progression born of shared purpose and genuine understanding. Lucas had seen her at her most vulnerable and never once used it against her or treated her as damaged. Instead, he'd consistently valued her strength, her intelligence, her resilience. The night air suddenly felt charged with possibility as Lucas turned to face her, something unspoken in his expression. "Elise, he began, then stopped as fat snowflakes began drifting down around them. A snow shower, unexpected and magical, breaking the moment. Elise tilted her face upward, letting flakes melt against her warm skin. "It's beautiful," she murmured. When she looked back at Lucas, he was watching her with such intensity it made her breath catch. For a heartbeat, she thought he might bridge the distance between them, thought she might welcome it if he did. Instead, he gently brushed a snowflake from her cheek, his touch light, but sending electricity through her nonetheless. "We should go inside," he said, his voice rougher than usual. "It's getting colder." The moment passed, yet something had shifted between them, an acknowledgement of possibilities neither was quite ready to pursue. As they gathered their things to move indoors, a message pinged on both their phones simultaneously. Javier had sent an urgent alert Harrington announcement scheduled for tomorrow morning before Guardian presentation. Sources suggest major reveal of proprietary security architecture. Lucas's expression hardened as he read, "They're moving up their timeline. They must have learned we're close to exposing them." Elise surmised professional focus reasserting itself, despite the lingering awareness of their almost moment. "Then we adjust our strategy accordingly," Lucas replied, determination replacing the warmth in his eyes. "If they're accelerating, so are we." As they moved inside to develop their counter-approach, Elise found herself caught between two powerful currents, the building momentum of their campaign against the Harrington family and the undeniable pull toward the man who had become far more than just her ally in seeking justice. Tomorrow would bring confrontation with Nathan and the public battle over her stolen work. But tonight had brought its own revelation that despite her best efforts to guard her heart after betrayal, she was falling slowly but inevitably for Lucas Carter, and the prospect terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. Chapter 6. The Masquerade. The Denver Technology Summit's main hall buzzed with anticipation. Tech executives and journalists filled the seats drawn by Harrington Industries' announcement of a revolutionary security infrastructure. Elise sat rigidly beside Lucas, her elegant burgundy dress projecting confidence She didn't entirely feel ready. Lucas murmured, his shoulder warm against hers. "As I'll ever be," she replied. Maintaining a neutral expression, Edward Harrington took the stage with practiced charisma. Nathan, following in a tailored suit. His jaw tightened slightly when he spotted Elise in the audience. Today, Harrington Industries proudly introduces SecureNet. Edward announced to enthusiastic applause a comprehensive security architecture revolutionizing financial data protection. As they detailed the system, Elise's anger grew. They had taken her adaptive protocols exactly as Lucas had warned, creating backdoor access while maintaining the illusion of security. The core innovation, Nathan explained smoothly, is the adaptive response algorithm that identifies threats while maintaining system operations. "My algorithm." Elise whispered, her nails digging into her palm. Lucas's hand covered hers briefly. "Wait, our turn is coming." After the Harrington presentation, Edward and Nathan deliberately passed by Elise and Lucas. Miss Johnson. Edward acknowledged with a thin smile. "What a surprise." "Enjoying the conference?" "Immensely," Elise replied coolly. "Particularly the creative reinterpretation of familiar work." Nathan looked uncomfortable. "Elise, Mr. Harrington," she interrupted. "Congratulations on your new position. Family connections are so valuable in building a career, aren't they?" The barb hit its mark. Nathan's gaze flicked to Lucas. "Mr. Carter, I didn't realize Guardian had hired Miss Johnson." "Director Johnson oversees our protocol development," Lucas replied evenly. "Her contributions have been transformative." Edward assessed the dynamic between them before moving away with his son. Elise and Lucas's presentation systematically demonstrated Guardian's security framework, highlighting the original research without directly accusing Harrington of theft. The distinction, Elise explained to the rapt audience, is that our approach prioritizes true security over surveillance capabilities. No backdoors, no compromise. The audience clearly understood the implication, particularly the technical specialists who recognized the architectural differences. By the time they left the stage, Harrington Industries' earlier triumph had been effectively undermined. Javier confirmed his team is in position, Lucas reported as they retreated to a quiet corner. "He needs final authorization before proceeding." Elise nodded, the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. "Let's do it." The masquerade gala transformed the resort's grand ballroom into a scene of elegant mystery. Elise wore midnight blue, her silver filigree mask embedded with tiny sapphires. Lucas looked striking in his tuxedo and obsidian mask. "You look breathtaking," he said quietly when they met. "Thank you," she replied, momentarily breathless. "Have you heard from Javier?" "Everything's proceeding according to plan. His team accessed the resort's security network during the keynotes. They circulated among industry leaders, aware that Nathan's eyes followed Elise whenever she came into view. Your ex-husband can't seem to take his eyes off you," Lucas observed, his tone carefully neutral as they danced. "Let him look," Elise replied, surprisingly unbothered. "He gave up any right to more than that. Javier needs a distraction near the east entrance. Security is more vigilant than expected." Elisa smiled slowly. "I have an idea. Follow my lead." She orchestrated a carefully timed stumble that sent her directly into Nathan's path. "Oh," she exclaimed as he steadied her. "I'm sorry. These heels are treacherous." Nathan held her elbow longer than necessary. "Elise, I've been hoping to speak with you privately." Lucas appeared protectively. "Everything all right?" "Fine," Elise assured him. "Actually, Mr. Harrington wanted a word. Would you mind getting me another drink?" As Lucas moved toward the bar and the security station near the east entrance, Nathan guided Elise to a quieter area. "I've been watching you with Carter," he said without preamble. "You've grown close. Is that why you wanted to speak to comment on my professional relationships?" "We both know it's more than professional," Nathan countered. "I recognize the signs. The way you recognize them with me," Elise challenged. "Before you left me on our wedding night," Nathan flinched. "That's what I wanted to explain. It wasn't entirely my choice. Save the excuses. Nothing could justify what you did. Not even your father's safety." Nathan's voice dropped. "Elise, there's more happening than you understand. My father—" He was interrupted as Elise nodded toward Edward, who was gesturing for Nathan. As Nathan left, Elise realized their confrontation had accomplished its purpose, drawing security attention, while Lucas slipped something to Javier's associate near the bar. "Mission accomplished," Lucas murmured when she rejoined him. "Javier's team has access to the security grid now." He studied her expression, What did Nathan say to upset you? Nothing important, Elise lied, unwilling to voice her new uncertainties, just trying to justify his actions. Later, Elise overheard fragments of conversation about Guardian's mysterious founder. Carter built that company from nothing, one executive said. Started in his garage, and now he's competing with tech giants. The question is where he got his initial funding, his companion replied. Nobody goes from garage startup to billion-dollar security firm without serious backing. Near 11, Lucas suggested they take some air. The night was cold, but clear stars brilliant above the mountain landscape. You've been quiet, Lucas observed. Having second thoughts, Elise turned to face him. Should I be? Something in her tone made him tense. What did Nathan say to you? He suggested, I don't know everything about you, she admitted, and I've been realizing that's true. Lucas removed his mask, wanting her to see his full expression. What do you want to know? How did you really build Guardian? Everyone says you appeared out of nowhere with advanced technology and major funding. You want the truth? Yes, I had help. After college, I developed security algorithms that attracted attention from government agencies. They provided initial funding. His voice dropped. But I've spent the past decade ensuring Guardian remains independent. Why keep that secret? Because associates of the Harrington family were involved in the beginning, when I refused to allow my technology to be modified for surveillance purposes. The very thing they're trying to do with your protocols. Those relationships soured. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed with Javier's signal. East Wing clear operation proceeding. Return to Gala for visibility. As they returned to the ballroom, Elise excused herself briefly. In the ladies' room, she overheard two women gossiping. I heard Carter's been obsessed with her for years. Peterson from Cyber Solutions told me Carter specifically recruited her after that disastrous wedding. Said he'd been following her career since college. Elise froze. Following her career since college that went beyond their childhood connection or professional interest. When she returned, Javier's urgent message arrived. Security breach detected. Evacuate immediately. As alarms blared, Elise spotted Nathan watching them from across the room. When their eyes met, he gave an almost imperceptible nod toward a side door, offering help. Lucas pulled her in the opposite direction. This way, I know another route. They hurried to the resort's helicopter pad, where Javier waited with the Guardian corporate helicopter. What happened? Lucas demanded as they boarded. They detected our access attempts, Javier explained. We got what we needed, but they know someone was in their system. As the helicopter lifted off, Elise couldn't shake the feeling that she was fleeing not just Harrington's security, but uncomfortable truths about the man beside her. Truths that might change everything between them. Chapter 7. Shadows from the Past. The Guardian corporate jet touched down at a private airfield outside New York just after dawn. Elise had barely spoken during the flight, her mind whirling with questions about Lucas's past and his true intentions. We should head straight to the office, Lucas suggested. As they descended the jet stairs, Javier's team is analyzing the data from the Harrington server. I need to check on my father first, Elise replied, remembering Nathan's cryptic warning. I'll meet you at Guardian afterward. Lucas hesitated. Elise, about last night. Not now, she interrupted. Let's focus on the data. Samuel Johnson was surprised, but pleased by his daughter's early morning visit. I wasn't expecting you back from Denver until tomorrow, he said, embracing her. Dad, has anyone from Harrington Industries contacted you recently? Any unusual threats or offers? Her father's brow furrowed. Nothing direct, though. Their legal team sent notice last week, claiming patent infringement on some of our older security protocols. He studied her. What's going on, Elise? Nathan suggested. You might be in danger. Something about your safety being the reason he left on our wedding night. Samuel's expression darkened. That's absurd. The boy's looking for excuses. Before Elise could press further, her secure phone buzzed with an urgent message from Nora Harrington. Press conference announced for noon. Topic: security breach and corporate espionage allegations against Guardian. Lucas needs you at HQ immediately. Guardian's executive floor was in crisis mode when Elise arrived. Screens displayed news channels waiting for the Harrington Industries press conference, while Nora coordinated response teams. What exactly are they planning to announce? Elise asked Lucas. They're claiming we hacked their servers during the summit, Javier explained. They have security footage of our operatives accessing their systems. How your team's too careful for that. Someone tipped them off, Lucas said grimly. They were waiting for us. What about the compromising photos? Elise asked. Did we secure them? Javier hesitated. We located the encrypted drive, but extraction was only partially successful. We recovered file fragments, not complete images. Elisa felt sick, so Nathan still has them. For now, Lucas assured her. But we also found communications that prove Harrington Industries has been selling modified security technology to sanctioned countries. As they debated strategy, a commotion in the outer office drew their attention. To Elise's shock, Nathan Harrington stood in the doorway flanked by Guardian security officers. He insisted on speaking with you, a guard explained to Lucas. Lucas's expression hardened. What are you doing here, Harrington? Nathan ignored him, focusing on Elise. I need to speak with you privately. Anything you have to say can be said in front of my colleagues, Elise replied coldly. Fine. My father is about to publicly accuse Guardian of corporate espionage. He has footage of your operatives, and he plans to release those photos of you as evidence of a personal vendetta. The blunt statement sent a wave of nausea through Elise. He wouldn't dare. He would, Nathan countered. Unless I can convince him otherwise in the next hour. Why would you help me? Elise demanded. You took those photos. You left me on our wedding night. Because Pingjung. Because I never wanted to hurt you. He glanced at Lucas. Unlike some, I'm willing to admit when I've been part of something wrong. Lucas stepped forward. What exactly are you implying? Ask him about Project Nexus, Nathan said to Elise. Ask him why he really founded Guardian, and why he's really targeting my family. The room fell silent. Elise noticed Lucas's expression, not outrage or confusion, but a carefully controlled alarm. What is Project Nexus? She asked. Lucas hesitated. It's classified government work from a decade ago, nothing relevant to our current situation. It's everything relevant, Nathan insisted. Tell her how your security company was built on stolen technology, my family's technology. Tell her how your obsession with revenge has been driving this from the beginning. That's enough, Lucas snapped. Security escort Mr. Harrington out. Wait, Elise commanded. I want to hear what he has to say. Nathan held out a small drive. This contains the original photos and all copies. It also contains documentation about Project Nexus and Lucas Carter's real history with Harrington Industries. And your price for this generosity? Lucas asked tightly. Convince your father to withdraw Guardian's pending lawsuit against Johnson Tech. Elise guessed. That's why you came to me, isn't it? Nathan nodded. The lawsuit is baseless, designed to bankrupt Johnson Tech and force your father to sell. We filed no lawsuit against Johnson Tech, Lucas stated confused. Check again, Nathan replied. The paperwork was filed yesterday under Guardian's subsidiary Aegis Holdings. Elise felt as though the floor had dropped beneath her. Is this true? She demanded, turning to Nora. Nora's expression confirmed it. Aegis did file legal action, but it wasn't authorized through normal channels. We're investigating. I want that lawsuit withdrawn. Lucas ordered immediately. It may be too late, Nathan said. My father's already leveraging it to pressure your board. He's offering them a partnership if they remove you as CEO. Why are you really here? Nathan Lucas demanded. Believe it or not, I'm trying to make amends, Nathan replied, looking at Elise. What I did was unforgivable, but letting my father use those photos would be worse. If I help convince my father to negotiate on the lawsuit, you'll give me the photos and stop the press conference, Elise asked. Yes, Nathan confirmed. You have my word. Your word means nothing. Lucas interjected. This is clearly a setup. Elise felt caught between impossible choices. Trust the man who had abandoned her, or the man who might have been deceiving her in different ways. I need to see what's on that drive, she decided, extending her hand. Nathan placed it in her palm. The password is the name of your childhood dog. In Nora's office, Elise inserted the drive into a standalone computer. She typed Buddy, her childhood Labrador's name, and the drive unlocked to reveal two folders, Photos and Nexus. She opened the Photos folder, first confronting the images that had haunted her for months. With trembling fingers, she deleted them permanently. Then she opened the Nexus folder. What she found made her blood run cold. Project Nexus had been a classified government initiative, a partnership between Harrington Industries and Lucas Carter. The project's goal had been to develop undetectable backdoor access to encryption systems. When the Harrington team had pushed to sell the technology to non-government entities, Lucas had allegedly stolen key components and disappeared, resurfacing later as the founder of Guardian Security. According to the documentation, Lucas's crusade against Harrington Industries was personal revenge against the family that had tried to have him arrested. More disturbing were reports suggesting Lucas had been monitoring Elise for years, long before Nathan entered her life. The final document was a security assessment of Johnson Tech that highlighted vulnerabilities Guardian was now exploiting through the Aegis lawsuit. Elise's hands shook as she closed the files. If this was true, then Lucas had been manipulating her from the beginning, using her pain and humiliation to advance his vendetta against the Harrington family. The thought made her physically ill. Had she simply traded one manipulator for another, more sophisticated one? When she emerged from Nora's office, she found Nathan waiting in the reception area. "I've deleted the photos," Elise informed him, "and I've read about Project Nexus." "Then you understand what you're dealing with," Nathan said. "I understand that both you and Lucas have used me in your corporate war," Elise replied coldly. 20. "System. The difference is you admitted it. I regret what I did to you every day." Nathan said quietly, a surprising vulnerability in his voice. "Not just because it was wrong, but because what we had, it wasn't all fake, Elise. Not for me." Before she could process this unexpected confession, Lucas appeared in the doorway. "The lawsuit against Johnson Tech has been withdrawn," he announced. "I've personally signed the paperwork." Nathan looked surprised. That was unexpectedly efficient. "And unlike some people, I keep my promises to Elise," Lucas said pointedly. The tension between the men was palpable. Years of corporate rivalry now complicated by their connections to Elise. She stepped between them, unwilling to be a prize in their power struggle. "You'll call off the press conference?" she asked Nathan. "I'll do what I can," he promised. "But my father may proceed regardless." As he departed, he offered a final warning. "Elise, be careful who you trust. Some obsessions run deeper than you realize." Left alone with Lucas, Elise said simply, "We need to talk." Lucas nodded, his expression guarded, but resigned. "Yes, we do." The weight of Project Nexus hung between them like a physical barrier. Whatever trust had been building between them over the past months now stood on precarious ground, undermined by revelations that called into question everything Elise had come to believe about Lucas's motives. Not here, she decided, needing neutral ground for this conversation. Somewhere private. As they walked toward his office, Elise felt the weight of decisions pressing down on her. The photos were gone, but the damage to her trust might be irreparable. Chapter 8. Painful Choice. Lucas's office felt smaller than usual as Elise faced him across his desk. The floor-to-ceiling windows that normally offered panoramic views of the city now only reflected their tense expressions as evening descended. "The files Nathan gave you," Lucas began, his voice carefully controlled. "I should explain." "Yes, you should," Elise agreed, maintaining a professional distance despite the storm of emotions beneath her surface. "Project Nexus. Your history with Harrington Industries, the surveillance of me for years. Which should we address first?" Lucas ran a hand through his dark hair, a rare gesture of discomfort from a man usually so composed. "Project Nexus was real. I was recruited straight out of MIT to work on encryption technology with government applications. Harrington Industries was the primary contractor, and you stole their work," Elise stated flatly. "No," Lucas countered firmly. "I prevented them from selling intrusion technology to foreign entities. Edward Harrington wanted to monetize what was meant to be classified security infrastructure. When I objected, I became a liability. So you took the technology and built Guardian with it." Lucas' jaw tightened. "I took my own work and built something better, security without backdoors or compromise. Edward never forgave me for it." Elise studied him, searching for deception and finding instead what appeared to be sincere conviction. "And your interest in me. The reports showed you monitoring my career for years." A flush rose on Lucas's cheekbones. "That's not entirely accurate. Yes, I kept track of your professional achievements. You had surveillance on me." Elise interrupted sharply. "I had security alerts set up regarding your innovations," Lucas corrected. "Your work in adaptive protocols was revolutionary. When you became involved with Nathan, I was concerned enough to appear conveniently after my wedding fell apart." Elise challenged, "Was I just another way to get back at the Harrington family?" Pain flashed across Lucas's features. "Is that what you think? That I've spent months building a relationship with you as some elaborate revenge plot?" The raw emotion in his voice gave Elise pause. Before she could respond, her phone chimed with an incoming call from her father. Excusing herself, she stepped away to answer. "Dad, everything okay, Elise?" Her father's voice sounded strained. "I need you to come home now." "What's wrong?" Alarm shot through her. "Just come, please." And he hesitated. "Don't bring Lucas." The call disconnected before she could ask more questions. Turning back to Lucas, she found him watching her with concern. "I have to go," she said. "My father needs me." Lucas nodded, respecting her priorities, despite their unfinished conversation. "We'll continue this later, but Elise, whatever you believe about my past, please know that my feelings for you have always been genuine." The simple sincerity in his voice struck her more powerfully than any elaborate explanation could have. With emotions too complicated to untangle in the moment, Elise left the weight of unresolved questions heavy on her shoulders. Elise found her father in his home office looking unusually pale. On his desk sat an open laptop displaying financial data for Johnson Tech. Guardian withdrew their lawsuit, he said without preamble, but the damage is already done. Our stock dropped 15% on the news, and 3 major clients have put their contracts on hold pending resolution. We'll fix this, Elise assured him, though uncertainty gnawed at her. Lucas has promised to issue a formal statement clarifying the situation. Her father's expression hardened. Lucas Carter is the last person I trust right now, especially after this arrived. He handed her a thick envelope. Inside, Elise found photographs not of herself but of Lucas, meeting with known competitors of Johnson Tech over the past year. The final image showed Lucas with her father's former business partner, a man who had tried to force Samuel out of his own company years ago. "Where did these come from?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Edward Harrington sent them personally," her father confirmed, along with documentation showing Guardian has been systematically acquiring companies that use Johnson Tech security protocols. The strategy was now painfully clear. Guardian had been positioning to absorb Johnson Tech's client base, while simultaneously driving down the company's value through the lawsuit. "Dad, I don't think Lucas knew about this," Elise said, though doubt colored her voice. "The lawsuit was filed through a subsidiary without proper authorization." "You really believe that?" her father asked gently. "Or do you want to believe it because you've developed feelings for him?" The question cut close to the bone. Had she been blinded by her growing attraction to Lucas, missing signs that should have been obvious? Before she could formulate a response, a wave of nausea swept over her, so suddenly she had to grip the edge of the desk for support. "Elise." Her father's concern was immediate. "Are you all right?" "Just tired," she managed. Though this was the 3rd morning this week, she'd experienced similar symptoms. A cold realization dawned on her. With everything happening, she hadn't been tracking her cycle. Her father insisted she rest, offering to make dinner while she recovered. Alone in her childhood bedroom, Elise faced the possibility she'd been avoiding acknowledging. After a quick calculation, she confirmed her suspicion she was over 2 weeks late. The night she'd spent with Lucas during the snowstorm in Denver, they had been careful, but no method was foolproof. The potential reality of pregnancy hit her with dizzying force. A child, Lucas's child, would bind her permanently to a man whose trustworthiness she now questioned. Yet even as doubt clouded her rational mind, her heart reacted with unexpected warmth to the possibility of new life. Her phone buzzed with a message from Lucas. "Please let me know you're safe. We need to finish our conversation." Elise set the phone aside without responding, needing space to process the multiple crises converging in her life. Her father's company was under threat. Her trust in Lucas had been severely compromised. And now this potential pregnancy added another layer of complexity to an already impossible situation. After dinner with her father, during which she carefully avoided discussing her suspicions about her condition, Elise made a decision. She would need clarity on all fronts before determining her next steps. The following morning, she visited her doctor under the guise of a routine checkup. The blood test confirmed what she already suspected. She was approximately 8 weeks pregnant. "Everything looks normal," her doctor assured her, "though your blood pressure is elevated. Are you under unusual stress?" Elise managed a wry smile. You could say that. With medical confirmation of her pregnancy, Elise faced her most difficult decision yet. Should she tell Lucas immediately, wait until she had decided how to proceed with their relationship? The man she had come to care for deeply was now shrouded in suspicion, yet he was undeniably the father of her child. Returning to her apartment to gather her thoughts, Elise found Nathan Harrington waiting in the lobby. Her immediate instinct was suspicion. "Before you call security," he said quickly, holding up his hands, "I came to warn you. My father is moving forward with the press conference tomorrow, with or without my support." "I thought you were going to stop him," Elise accused. "I tried," Nathan replied, genuine regret in his expression. "But he's determined to destroy both Guardian and Johnson Tech." The photos of you were just leverage. His real target has always been Lucas. Why are you telling me this? Because contrary to what you might believe, I did care for you, Elise. Nathan's expression softened. What I did was unforgivable, but I'm trying to make it right. Elise studied him, weighing his sincerity against his past betrayal. What does your father have planned? He's going to expose Project Nexus, publicly painting Lucas as a thief who built Guardian on stolen technology. Then he'll announce a partnership with 3 of Johnson Tech's biggest clients, effectively gutting your father's business. The comprehensive attack would devastate both Lucas and her father simultaneously. Despite her own doubts about Lucas, Elise couldn't stand by and watch this destruction. Thank you for the warning, she said finally. Nathan nodded, turning to leave before hesitating. Elise, I know you have feelings for Carter, but be careful. His obsession with destroying my family has consumed him for years. Don't let yourself become collateral damage. After he left, Elise sat in her apartment, one hand unconsciously resting on her still flat abdomen. The child growing within her deserved better than to be born into a war between corporate titans. Yet the thought of walking away from Lucas, of raising their child without him, created an ache she hadn't anticipated. Her phone had accumulated a dozen missed calls from Lucas over the past day. Finally, she texted him, "Meeting with Harrington, senior scheduled for tomorrow. We need to be prepared." His response was immediate. "Where are you? I've been worried." The genuine concern in his simple message touched her despite her reservations. "At my apartment. Need some time to think. Can I come see you?" There's more to explain about Nexus. Elise hesitated, then made her decision. "Not tonight. I'll be at Guardian first thing tomorrow. We'll talk then." She needed this night alone to decide how to handle the revelation of her pregnancy. The child complicated everything, creating a permanence to her connection with Lucas that transcended corporate intrigue or past betrayals. As she prepared for bed, exhaustion from the day's emotional roller coaster settling into her bones, Elise's phone chimed with one final message from Lucas. "Whatever you're thinking, whatever doubts Nathan planted, please remember this: my feelings for you have been the most honest part of my life in years. I'll prove that to you tomorrow." The simple declaration brought unexpected tears to her eyes. Despite everything, despite the reasonable doubts and damning evidence, her heart still responded to him with a longing she couldn't easily dismiss. Tomorrow would bring confrontation and difficult revelations. But tonight, Elise allowed herself to imagine just briefly a future where the complications fell away, where the child growing inside her would know both parents in a relationship built on truth rather than strategic advantage. It was a beautiful dream, but as she drifted into uneasy sleep, Elise knew that reality would demand painful choices come, mourning choices that would forever alter not just her life, but now the life of her unborn child as well. Chapter 9. Truth and Consequences. Guardian's headquarters buzzed with tense energy as Elise arrived the next morning. News vans lined the street outside, evidence that Edward Harrington's press conference had attracted significant media attention. Security guards escorted her through a side entrance to avoid the gathering reporters. Nora met her in the lobby, tablet in hand, and concern evident on her face. "Lucas is waiting in the crisis room with legal. Harrington Industries has already issued a statement claiming they'll provide evidence of systematic intellectual property theft by Guardian." Elise nodded, maintaining professional composure despite the tumult of her personal emotions. "What's our counter-strategy?" "Lucas wants to discuss that with you directly," Nora replied, studying her with perceptive eyes. "Are you okay? You look pale." "Just tired," Elise assured her, consciously avoiding any gesture toward her abdomen where her secret grew. "It's been an intense few days." The crisis room fell silent when she entered. Lucas stood, immediately relief washing over his features. Dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept. "Elise," he said her name, emerging like a prayer. "Thank you for coming." She acknowledged him with a nod, taking a seat at the conference table. "What are we facing?" Javier activated the main screen, displaying a timeline of Harrington Industries' planned announcements. "Edward Harrington has scheduled a press conference at noon. Based on our intelligence, he plans to release documentation about Project Nexus painting Guardian as built on stolen technology." "Is it true?" Elise asked bluntly, looking directly at Lucas. "Did you take their technology to start Guardian?" The room's tension thickened as everyone awaited his answer. Lucas met her gaze unflinchingly. "No," he said firmly. "What I developed at Project Nexus was my own work. When I discovered Harrington's plan to sell it to unauthorized foreign entities, I left with only my personal research. What I couldn't take, I destroyed to prevent misuse. So you did destroy their property, Elise pressed. I destroyed dangerous tools that would have compromised national security, Lucas corrected. Harrington has spent a decade trying to frame it as theft, but the reality is I prevented a serious breach of classified technology. Legal counsel interjected with strategic recommendations, but Elise found it difficult to focus as another wave of nausea swept through her. The pregnancy symptoms were becoming harder to disguise. She excused herself briefly, returning after splashing cold water on her face in the restroom. When she re-entered, Lucas was alone in the crisis room, the others having departed to implement initial response strategies. "We need to talk privately," he said, without preamble about everything. "Nexus, the surveillance, your father's company, no more half-truths or strategic omissions." Elise hesitated, then nodded. "I'm listening." Lucas's professional facade softened, revealing the vulnerability beneath. "I did monitor your career after we reconnected at the conference in Silicon Valley 4 years ago, not through surveillance, but by following your publications and patent filings. Your work was brilliant. I wanted to offer you a position at Guardian even then." "Why didn't you?" Elise asked. "Because I didn't want to drag you into my conflict with Harrington Industries," Lucas admitted. "I knew they were watching me, looking for weaknesses. Anyone close to me became a potential target. Yet when Nathan abandoned me, you appeared immediately." Elise observed her tone neutral but questioning. Lucas's expression tightened. "When I heard what happened, I was furious on your behalf. But yes, I also recognized an opportunity both to help you and to finally gather evidence against the Harrington family. The honesty, however belated, was refreshing. And my father's company, the lawsuit filed by your subsidiary, that was done without my knowledge or approval." Lucas insisted. "I've spent the morning investigating. The order came through one of our board members, a Harrington plant, as it turns out. They orchestrated it to create exactly this division between us." Elise processed this, weighing it against what she knew of corporate espionage tactics. "You have proof?" In answer, Lucas activated the room's display showing internal Guardian communications that had been intercepted and rerouted through carefully disguised channels. The evidence supported his claim of sabotage from within. "I've removed the board member responsible and initiated a security audit of all our systems," Lucas explained. "But the damage to Johnson Tech has already been done. My father received photographs of you meeting with his competitors," Elise countered. "How do you explain those?" "Standard industry networking taken out of context and carefully selected to suggest conspiracy." Lucas replied without hesitation. "I meet with hundreds of executives yearly. Harrington cherry-picked images to create a false narrative." His explanation was plausible. Yet Elise wasn't fully convinced. "Why should I believe you over Nathan? He's been surprisingly honest about his own wrongdoing." Lucas' expression darkened. "Because Nathan Harrington is playing you, Elise. His sudden attack of conscience is carefully calculated. The question is why?" Before she could respond, Javier burst into the room. "We have a problem. Harrington just moved up his press conference. It's starting now." The main screen switched to a live feed of Edward Harrington approaching a podium, his expression severe but satisfied. Nathan stood slightly behind him, looking uncomfortable but resolute. "Ladies and gentlemen," Edward began. "Today I'm here to expose a decade-long campaign of corporate espionage and technology theft perpetrated by Guardian Security Systems and its founder Lucas Carter." As Edward launched into his accusations, Lucas's phone chimed with an urgent message. He read it, his expression shifting from concern to shock. "What is it?" Elise asked. "Javier's team found something in the Harrington server data," he replied, forwarding the message to the room's display. "Evidence that the compromising photos of you were part of a planned operation from the beginning, codenamed Johnson Acquisition. The documents outlined a comprehensive strategy, initiated over 2 years ago, long before Elise met Nathan. Harrington Industries had identified Johnson Tech's adaptive security protocols as critical to their international operations. When legitimate acquisition offers were rejected, they developed alternative pressure strategies, including having Nathan pursue a relationship with Elise. He knew Elise whispered the betrayal cutting fresh. From the very first date, he was executing a corporate strategy. Lucas's expression softened with sympathy. "I'm sorry, Elise." On screen, Edward was now displaying documents, allegedly proving Guardian's theft of proprietary technology. The media representatives looked suitably shocked, scribbling notes furiously. "We need to respond," Javier urged. "This narrative is taking hold. Wait, Elise said suddenly, studying the documents more closely. These file signatures, I recognize the pattern. Nora, can you pull up Project Safeguard from our secure archive? Nora complied, displaying Guardian's encrypted research database on a separate screen. Elise quickly navigated to a specific directory, then split-screened it with the Harrington presentation. Look at this, she said urgently. The encryption protocols Harrington claims Lucas stole, they were independently developed by Johnson Tech 3 years before Project Nexus even existed. My father created the foundational algorithm during his early research. Lucas stared at the evidence connections forming rapidly. That's why they targeted your father's company. They needed to bury the original research that would prove they were the thieves, not me. We need to get this information to the press conference, Nora insisted. Immediately. No, Elise countered an idea, forming, we need to do more than defend. We need to reveal the entire operation. She turned to Lucas. Do you trust me to handle this? The question carried weight beyond the immediate crisis, addressing the fundamental breach of trust between them. Lucas's answer came without hesitation. Completely. With renewed purpose, Elise outlined a counter-strategy that would expose Harrington Industries' years-long campaign of corporate espionage, patent infringement, and personal manipulation. Within minutes, the team was executing her plan, transmitting evidence to key financial journalists and regulatory authorities simultaneously. As they worked, Lucas pulled Elise aside. There's something else you should know about Nathan. She tensed, bracing for more revelations. What now? His apparent change of heart helping you get the photos back, warning you about his father's plans. It's not what it seems, Lucas explained. Javier's team discovered communications indicating Nathan is positioning to take over Harrington Industries. He's using this conflict to undermine his father's leadership while appearing morally superior himself. The information settled like a stone in Elise's stomach. Even Nathan's apparent redemption had been strategic manipulation. So both Harrington men used me, she said flatly. Father and son. I'm afraid so, Lucas confirmed gently. I'm sorry, Elise. You deserved better. The simple validation of her feelings, her right to feel betrayed unexpectedly, brought tears to her eyes. She blinked them back, refocusing on their immediate challenge. On screen, Edward Harrington was concluding his accusations against Guardian, looking smugly victorious as he invited questions from reporters. The first came from a financial journalist. Elise recognized Mr. Harrington. Could you comment on documents just released, suggesting Harrington Industries systematically stole encryption technology from Johnson Tech and then attempted to acquire the company to hide the evidence? Edward's composure slipped momentarily. I'm not aware of any such documents. They were released minutes ago, the journalist continued, along with evidence that your son's relationship with Elise Johnson was orchestrated as part of a corporate acquisition strategy. Do you deny these allegations? The camera caught Nathan's expression of alarm as he realized their operation had been exposed. Edward attempted damage control, but more journalists began asking pointed questions about the Johnson acquisition strategy and the compromising photos taken as leverage. Within minutes, the press conference had transformed from a planned takedown of Guardian into a defensive scramble for Harrington Industries. When questioned directly about selling security technology to sanctioned countries, Edward abruptly ended the press conference, hurrying away with Nathan in tow. The crisis room erupted in triumphant energy as news tickers began reporting on the shocking allegations of corporate espionage against Harrington Industries. Financial analysts were already predicting significant stock devaluation and potential regulatory investigations. You did it, Lucas said quietly to Elise, genuine admiration in his eyes. You turned their entire strategy against them. We did it, she corrected, allowing herself to acknowledge their effective partnership despite the complicated emotions between them. But this isn't over yet. As if proving her point, Nora reported that Nathan Harrington was requesting to speak with Elise urgently. He's in the lobby. Says it's a matter of life and death. Lucas then said, it's another manipulation. Probably Elise agreed, but I need to hear what he has to say. Before Lucas could protest, she added, I'll take security with me. In the secure meeting room off the main lobby, Nathan paced anxiously, his normally impeccable appearance disheveled. He stopped when Elise entered, relief crossing his features. Elise, thank God. You need to leave the building now. Why would I do that? She asked coolly, maintaining a safe distance with security personnel, visibly present outside. Because my father has lost his mind, Nathan replied, genuine fear in his voice. When our press conference backfired, he activated contingency measures. There's a cyber attack aimed at Guardian's core system scheduled to deploy within the hour. But it's not just digital. He has people inside the building. More manipulation, Nathan. Is this how you plan to replace your father as CEO, by warning me about threats that don't exist? Nathan looked genuinely startled. What? No, Elise. This is real. My father would rather destroy Guardian completely than lose to Lucas Carter. You need to evacuate the building now. Before she could respond, the building's security alarms activated emergency lights, bathing the room in pulsing red. Through the glass walls, Elise could see staff moving rapidly toward exits. Her phone buzzed with a message from Lucas' server. Room breach confirmed. Building evacuation initiated. Meet me at emergency exit B. You knew about this, she accused Nathan, who looked genuinely alarmed by the unfolding chaos. Not this soon, he admitted. Please, Elise, whatever you think of me, I'm trying to help you now. My father's vendetta against Carter has consumed him. He doesn't care who gets hurt anymore. The sincerity in his voice gave Elise pause. Before she could decide how to respond, Lucas burst into the room, eyes locking immediately on Nathan with barely contained fury. What have you done? He demanded. For once, nothing, Nathan replied, hands raised defensively. I came to warn Elise. After your family planted the threat, Lucas countered. Not me, Nathan insisted. My father's working with people I don't even know. This is beyond corporate warfare. He's completely unhinged. Security personnel reported that the building's digital systems were under attack, with fire suppression and elevator controls already compromised. Luca made an immediate decision. We're evacuating all of us, including you, Harrington, he added grimly. If this is a trap, you're coming with us. As they moved toward the emergency exit, another wave of nausea hit Elise stronger than before. She stumbled instinctively, placing a protective hand over her abdomen. Lucas caught her arm, steadying her with concern. Elise, what's wrong? The moment of vulnerability forced a decision she'd been avoiding. With alarms blaring and chaos erupting around them, personal truth suddenly seemed more important than corporate warfare. I'm pregnant, she admitted. Meeting his eyes directly. 8 weeks. Denver. Lucas froze, shock and wonder transforming his expression. We're... He couldn't form complete sentences. Yes, she confirmed simply. For a moment, the building could have been collapsing around them, and neither would have noticed. Something fundamental shifted in Lucas's eyes. A new determination. A fiercer protectiveness. We need to get you out of here, he said, his voice gentle but urgent. Now, as they continued toward the exit, Elise caught Nathan watching them with an unreadable expression. She couldn't tell if he'd overheard her revelation, but something in his gaze suggested he understood he'd truly lost her, not to Lucas Carter, but to a future that had no place for Harrington family machinations. Outside the building, as emergency vehicles arrived and Guardian security established a perimeter, Lucas kept Elise close his hand protectively at the small of her back. The gesture was subtle but profound. A silent promise that whatever challenges they faced, they would face them together. The child growing within her had changed everything, forcing truth where strategic ambiguity had prevailed, demanding authenticity where corporate games had dominated. As Elise watched Edward Harrington being questioned by federal agents who had arrived with surprising speed, she realized that the greatest victory wasn't the exposure of Harrington Industries' misdeeds. It was the hard-won clarity between her and Lucas. We have a lot to talk about, she said quietly to him as the crisis management team coordinated their response. Yes, Lucas agreed, his eyes never leaving hers, starting with how I'm going to keep you and our child safe from whatever Edward Harrington might try next. The simple acknowledgement of their shared future, complicated as it might be settled, something in Elise's heart, trust once shattered, couldn't be instantly restored. But truth, however difficult, created a foundation for rebuilding what mattered most. Chapter 10. Sweet Revenge. 6 weeks after the dramatic events at Guardian headquarters, Elise adjusted the collar of her tailored blazer as she prepared to enter the federal courthouse. At 14 weeks pregnant, her condition wasn't yet visible beneath her professional attire, but the morning sickness had finally subsided, leaving her feeling more herself than she had in months. Ready? Lucas asked, offering his arm as they approached the imposing building where Edward Harrington's bail hearing was scheduled. Elise nodded, drawing strength from his steady presence. The weeks since the attempted cyber attack had been transformative. Concurrent with their focus on corporate recovery, their personal bond deepened through candid conversations about their future and the child they would raise together. "Just remember," Lucas said quietly as they climbed the courthouse, "steps today isn't about revenge, it's about justice." Inside the courtroom buzzed with media and industry spectators. Nathan sat alone in the front row, his father's allies having abandoned ship as evidence of Edward's crimes mounted. When he spotted Elise and Lucas, he nodded slightly, an acknowledgement without warmth. The proceedings moved swiftly. Despite Edward's legal team arguing for leniency, the judge denied bail, citing flight risk and the severity of the charges. As federal marshals led Edward away, his eyes locked with Elise's, burning with undimmed hatred. "It's really over," she whispered to Lucas as they exited the courtroom. "Almost," he replied. "There's one more thing we need to do." Outside, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing. Rather than avoiding them as they had for weeks, Lucas guided Elise toward the designated press area. "Mr. Carter, will Guardian pursue civil damages against Harrington Industries?" a reporter asked. Lucas spoke clearly into the microphones. "Today isn't about corporations or money. It's about accountability." Edward Harrington weaponized personal relationships and private moments for corporate gain. "That ends now." Elise stepped forward. "Johnson Tech and Guardian Security are announcing a formal merger today." She stated confidently, "We're combining our technologies to create security systems that protect privacy rather than exploit it." The announcement sent ripples through the assembled press. As questions flew, Elise spotted Nathan at the edge of the crowd, his expression a complex mixture of resignation and regret. Later that evening, in the quiet of their newly shared penthouse, Elise and Lucas stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. "Your father seemed pleased with the merger terms." Lucas noted, his arms encircling her from behind, hands resting gently on her still flat abdomen. "He's thrilled," Elise confirmed, "though I think he's more excited about becoming a grandfather." They had moved cautiously in rebuilding their relationship, prioritizing honesty over passion, trust over convenience. The pregnancy had accelerated their timeline, but not their careful attention to healing the wounds of betrayal. "I received Nathan's plea deal offer today," Lucas said. "In exchange for testimony against his father, he gets immunity and retains a minority stake in the restructured company." "And you agreed?" Elise asked, surprised. "Justice doesn't always mean destruction," Lucas replied. "Sometimes it means transformation." "Besides," he added with a hint of satisfaction, watching his father's empire dismantled while he remains powerless to stop. "It seems like fitting punishment." Elise turned in his arms, studying the face of the man who had gone from childhood acquaintance to business ally to the father of her child. The journey had been complicated by lies and manipulations, but ultimately forged in hard-won truth. "When I stood at that altar with Nathan, I thought I knew what love was," she reflected. "I had no idea it would take heartbreak and betrayal to find the real thing." Lucas's eyes softened as he placed a gentle hand on her cheek. "Some paths are more winding than others, but they still lead where they're meant to." 3 months later, at a small private ceremony overlooking the ocean, Elise and Lucas exchanged vows with only their closest friends and family present. Her father beamed with pride as he walked her down the aisle, her ivory gown elegantly accommodating her growing baby bump. As Lucas slipped the ring onto her finger, Elise reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From abandoned bride to expectant mother, from corporate pawn to powerful partner, she had reclaimed not just her dignity, but her future. The ultimate revenge against those who had tried to use her wasn't their downfall, satisfying as that had been. It was her triumph, this new life built on genuine love, mutual respect, and the unshakable foundation of truth they had fought so hard to establish. When their daughter was born 3 months later, a strong, beautiful girl with her mother's determined spirit and her father's thoughtful eyes, they named her Hope, a testament to what they had found in each other when all other certainties had failed.